Did you know when stitching in the ditch, when you're quilting, you should always stay in the ditch? Well, let me explain that to you. So this little sample piece I made here, just to show you what I mean, I have seamed two pieces of fabric together, and I'm going to turn it over here, and you can see when I press this, I accidentally let my seam flip to the other side. I'm using a contrasting thread on this so that you can see this a little bit better. Here we go. And so when I say stitch in the ditch, so I'm going to start up here. My ditch is on this side. This is the lower side, and this is the higher side of my seam. So I'm going to stitch along this line, and when I get to here, and sometimes it's hard to tell, but you can always run your finger across and you can feel which way that seam is laying. So I'm going to stitch down to here, and then I'm going to flip my stitching in the ditch to the other side because the ditch now is on this side of the fabric. I've got my little piece layered with some batting and backing, and now I'm going to stitch. This is my ditch right here on this side of the fabric of the seam, and I'm going to stitch right along, staying right in the ditch. And the best way to stay in the ditch is look ahead of where you're stitching. So I'm probably looking right about here in my ditch, away from my needle, and that keeps me in the ditch just a little bit better. And as I come down, where that seam flips, and again, I keep an eye on my seams because you just never know. You may think you have them all pressed nice and even on one side, but for some reason they just end up flipping. So I can feel that right here, just with my finger, and I'm just going to stitch on down until I get to that area, and it's right there. And sometimes my needle will automatically go over to the other side. The needle doesn't move. It just sometimes just kind of goes to the ditch. So now I'm going to stitch on the other side of that seam all the way down. And that's stitching in the ditch when your seams flip. So let's turn this around. And now you can see right here where it flipped, but I'm still in the ditch. If I was to stitch on top of the ditch, you would hear thump thump with your needle because you're going through many layers of fabric, batting and backing, and it doesn't look as pretty. The stitches aren't hidden as well as if you were going to switch to the other side. So there you have it. Stitching in the ditch when your seam flips.